What makes an exotic armor piece stand out? Well, obviously, it's potency. Maybe it's its look, or maybe it just doesn't suck, which is like the bare minimum we should want for our exotic armor pieces. Today, guys, I'm going to talk about exotics for each class that needs some help, starting with Foetracer. Now, Foetracer states that it visually marks targets, deals more damage to low health marked targets, and provides a small benefit to the airborne effectiveness stat of all weapons. Now, let me be frank. The deal more damage to low health targets is next to nothing. Even in a double primary meta back in year 1 of Destiny 2, this was barely beneficial with the likes of like sidearms or weapons that had low damage per body shot. Think like an SMG. Foetracer, though, never really provided much of a buff to ever make that big of a difference. And we've actually done damage testing multiple times with Foetracer just to see if it would give us enough damage to break certain archetypes or make certain weapons more forgiving. However, Foetracer's damage bump is straight ass. And by the time you even get an enemy inside of PvP to that low health threshold, they're already dead anyways. So the extra damage doesn't even kick in. Or if it does kick in, it doesn't even matter. I know it can mark targets and everything else, which is nice, but that damage bump is next to nothing. Moving on, Blight Ranger. Attacks you redirect with your arc staff deal massively increased damage and generate orbs of power for your allies. Now, to be quite frank, this exotic is useless. There was a damage glitch that existed for a while, which was patched, and now it isn't giving its reflect damage bonus in PvE. And really, guys, there just isn't a good way to take advantage of redirected arc attacks. And considering we have Arc 3.0 around the corner, Blight Ranger has got to get looked at. Beautiful exotic, but shite everywhere else. Next exotic, Raiju's Harness. Deactivate Whirlwind Guard early. Guarding does not consume extra super energy. Realistically, guys, even though we did recommend it in our exotic video for Arc 3.0, Raiju's Harness flat out sucks in comparison to Raid and Flux. Raid and Flux rewards you for attacking enemies. Raiju's Harness has this weird guard thing, and then sometimes the damage it provides doesn't quite relay. And on top of that, if I so wish to use a super to block damage, by all means, I would just use Ursa Furiosa, right? Raiju's Harness needs some love desperately, or it will forever be forgotten. Next, we have Khepri Sting. Punching someone with a full melee energy will instantly cast Smoke Bomb. You also gain True Sight while in your own Smoke Bomb, and your Smoke Bombs do increased damage. Now, pretty decent inside of PvP, guys. You can essentially give yourself wall hacks on the go, but Khepri Sting is really not a go-to option, especially inside of PvE. And with Void 3.0, this really overshadowed the benefits of Khepri Sting, especially with the likes of Trapper's Ambush and Stylish Executioner. This is an exotic that truly feels forgotten, where in Void 3.0, it should have been lifted up. Bungie, please give this thing some love. Moving on, we have Gwisin Vest. Each Spectral Blades kill you make before going into stealth will restore more of your super energy. Now, this was actually pretty good inside of PvP. For my Spectral Blades, you could essentially just run around and use your super for like ever. But between nerfs, and of course Tether just being the go-to option inside of PvE, this exotic sees very little use. And similar to like Khepri Sting, Void 3.0 should have given this exotic some love, but nobody cares about Gwisin Vest. Nobody. Hell, I auto-delete that stuff. Nobody wants a poopy super to last longer, even inside of PvP. If anything, I almost wish Gwisin Vest would get that falling star treatment, right? Like make Spectral Blades like crazy damage. Like almost to the point where it's comical. Yes, you make it stomp the hell and back when you push that boss with your Spectral Blade, but you're gonna do a hell of a lot of damage. Now, next we have our Titans. Khepri's Horn. Solar damage kills, recharge your barricade, which unleashes a blast of solar energy when summoned. Now listen, there's gonna be somebody right now that says, yo, Cross, Khepri's Horn, I've been using it all season. It's the most meta exotic in the game for Solar 3.0. And all I can tell you is I love you. I know you're trying, but stop it. I too had to accept that this terribly looking exotic is shite. There are so many better options other than Khepri's Horn. On top of that, when we talk about like meta builds inside of PvE, obviously Bonk is like a go-to choice. And I love the idea of using a barricade offensively, considering we're always using it defensively. But that wave of fire is just not enough. I need a tidal wave. Like this thing is like basic wave frame. I need Dead Messenger level of flames coming out of Khepri's, which would be amazing. Moving on, we have Stronghold. Now this maximizes guard stats on equipped swords, and shots blocked immediately after guarding will heal you. Now, one time, we used to live for Strongholds. Way back when with Energy Accelerant and Crown Spitter, Stronghold was like the best way to play Destiny. However, let's be real. Ever since Energy Accelerant went away, we suddenly all had the realization that swords currently suck, outside of maybe Lament. But the thing about Lament pretty much heals you, so there's really no big need for Stronghold. Personally, I just wish Stronghold increased sword damage on top of all these other benefits. Literally make my Titan a sword-wielding space knight that can do a hell of a lot of DPS. Our next exotic, Eternal Warrior. You gain an overshield when activating Fist of Havoc. Now, I know my PvP players right now are saying, yo, Cross, we don't need a buff for this thing. The overshield is aggravating enough. The problem with Eternal Warrior is now that we only get one super per game inside of PvP, whether it's trials or even 6v6, this exotic is pretty much useless, which is why to this day, people only put it on when they're about to pop their super. The idea is that this exotic may have some other passive ability, making it more useful outside of when you pop a super. Next on our list, Hallowfire Heart. Now I know, my Sunbreakers right now are literally about to start smashing that dislike button, but hear me out. What if I told you that even though Hallowfire Heart is good, it's completely overshadowed by Heart of Inmost Light? Somebody had to say it. Yes, Hallowfire Heart improves the recharge rate of your solar abilities, and it is very nice. And it greatly improves that rate when your super is charged. But Heart of Inmost Light actually does the same thing without needing a super. And it also increases the damage and potency of our abilities when you would cast them. And considering the abysmal recharge rate of our Hammer Titans, hell, by the time I'm able to actually take advantage of Hallowfire Heart, games are over. Heart of Inmost Light though, no problem. It would have been nice to see this exotic get some sort of tweak considering we just got Solar 3.0, but Bungie, it's not too late. Moving on, we have Precious Scars. Fellas, I have tried to make this exotic work. Kintsugi is such an incredible perk, at least philosophically, but final blows from weapons with a damage type matching your subclass energy creates a burst of healing around you. And after reviving or being revived, you gain an aura that provides overshields to you and nearby allies. Now, I was actually freaking out during Rift because Rift allowed for revives, and in doing so, allowed us to share this healing to all of our teammates. The problem is, between Rift and Trials, that was it, man. That was like the only two spots I'm able to actually take advantage of this. Inside of PvE, if you intentionally die, you're just throwing. But Cross, how do we buff Precious Scars and not make it too OP? It's really simple, guys. Precious Scars, as you res people over and over, after resing like, I don't know, 4, 5, 10 people, I don't care, you suddenly gain the ability to self-res. Super balanced. Bungie, make it happen. Moving on to Warlocks, Winter's Guile. Eliminating enemies with melee attacks increases your melee damage. Now, does this sound familiar? Well, it should. It sounds very similar to Worm God Caress on Titan. However, Warlocks don't have the same immediate melee regen Titans have with hammers or intrinsic healing with Bottom Tree Striker. Taking advantage of this exotic really just involves in a lot of slapping with your uncharged melee. If Winter's Guile actually granted melee regen with every single attack, well, now we're cooking. Personally, in Warlocks, I hate y'all and y'all's damn wide freaking melee. I feel like your palms could reach me from all angles, but that's more of a beef with the Ophidian aspects. Winter's Guile, though, that needs some love. Apotheosis Veil. Immediately regenerate health, melee, grenade, and rift energy upon activating your super. Nearby allies recharge class abilities faster. Now, there have been moments in history where Apotheosis Veil was actually good. I distinctly remember at some point in D1 where I needed Apotheosis Veil. Inside of D2, no, not really. And considering the tiers of supers, you're not even able to take advantage of Apotheosis Veil as you're not casting your super as often. And if we're talking about like Well of Radiance, dude, you're already getting health when you drop a well. And with 3.0 versions of our subclasses, I honestly feel like our allies don't need more class ability energy. They pretty much got that covered. Everything has been pushing Apotheosis Veil out to the point where I think most of us have even forgotten that this exotic exists. Somebody love this exotic. It needs it. Sanguine Alchemy. Weapon kills while standing in any rift, pauses the rift's cooldown, extending its duration. Further kills maintain and extend the length of the pause. Now, Sanguine really is not bad, but a lot of times, a healing or empowering rift is good when facing high health targets, which you can't kill immediately to pause the rift timer. If doing damage in the rift gave these benefits outside of getting kills in the rift, this would actually really work for this exotic, for both PvE and for PvP. But wait, what about PvP? Wouldn't people just sit inside the rift forever? Have you met Witherhoard? This exotic right here takes care of all those problems. You got a warlock that likes to hump the rift too much? Drop a Witherhoard. You got a bubble user Titan? Drop a Witherhoard. Somebody likes to sit behind their barricades too much? Drop a Witherhoard. A Worm Husk Hunter user with classy restoration? Witherhoard. Regardless though, Sanguine Alchemy, somebody love it. Moving on, Promethium Spur. Oh yes, I will stop in the middle of traffic and go out of my way to shit on this exotic. Defeating combatants or guardians while Daybreak is active creates a healing and empowering rift at their location. While standing in any rift, solo weapon final blows grant rift energy. When your rift energy is full, final blows consume your rift energy and create a healing and empowering rift at the target's location. Promethium Spur, in theory, works. There's a lot of similarities between it and Loreley, and that it will eat your class ability whether you want it to or not. But at least with Loreley, you get a sunspot at your feet. Promethium Spur, though, will just spawn things at your target's location, and that's not always the most ideal place to be at. Maybe it's far away. Maybe you have to push to it to actually take advantage of it. Even in things like PvE. Personally, this exotic has never been one that people use. And considering Daybreak got completely neutered inside of PvE, no one's even using it. Who cares about healing and empowering rifts at enemy's location after throwing your super that's been significantly nerfed? Sad times, fellas. Sad times. Moving on to Vesper of Radius. Rifts release an arc shockwave when cast. Rift energy recharges faster when you are surrounded by enemies. Now, stasis builds exist for Vesper that actually combine Frost Pulse with the arc shockwave. It's not terrible, but not a meta pick. The range for the arc pulse is smaller than the Frost Pulse, and it requires you to be very close most of the enemies to benefit. Meaning in hard content, you are in stomping territory of a champion. And you probably don't want to be in that position to drop a rift anyways, because you're just dying it along with your teammates. I like Vesper, and I mentioned this earlier in our other video for Arc Exotics. This could be a really good one depending on how it synergizes with Arc 3.0. But if it got individual love, maybe making that shockwave cast out even further, maybe even add some tracking. Huh? Everybody hates tracking in this game, man, right? Colony is actually a skillful weapon, but really though, Vesper of Radius, it needs some sort of mega arc shockwave buff, especially for Arc 3.0. So guys, that is my list of exotics that need help. Let me know in the comments below what you think. And now that we're at the end of the video, I shall now bring out my sponsor. Advanced GG, guys. If you like good quality gamer energy drinks, this is the best out there. Really. And I'm not saying that just because we have our own flavor called Nasty, which in fact doesn't taste nasty. If you'd like to try out our flavor though, guys, a link in the description below, and feel free to use code Aztecross on all Advanced GG products. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.